So by now you've probably heard that David Benioff and D.B. Weiss are no longer doing their Star Wars trilogy, but more and more information has been coming out that makes it sound like there was a pretty good reason for it.
You're fulfilling your destiny.
So if you're not up to date, D&D, David Benioff and D.B. Weiss originally had a Star Wars trilogy they were going to work on, and then recently we heard maybe they were just going to write the first script and have someone else direct it, and then write the final 2 films, and then we were told, no, they're stepping away. And apparently they had been planning to do this since August, so Disney, Lucasfilm under Disney, did not fire them. They had planned since August to no longer do the trilogy. Now, that's not to say that Lucasfilm and Kathleen Kennedy didn't have concerns, because they signed that huge, I think, $250 million deal with Netflix, and they were concerned about not only their ability to do both, but Kathleen Kennedy was also concerned about their ability to work with Netflix and also with Disney/Lucasfilm. If you followed all the reports, Kathleen Kennedy has been very open that in the future, when their schedules aren't so busy, she would love for them to come back. So this isn't Lucasfilm saying, fuck you, we're done with you, get out of our faces. It probably was more like, and this is just what I'm getting from it, of course, you can have a differing opinion, that's not a big deal, is that they wanted to work on both. And Lucasfilm, Kathleen Kennedy, who runs a very, very tight ship, it's my way or the highway with her, and kissing her ass is the best way, it seems, to stay on as a Star Wars writer or director. I think they probably said, yeah, we're not going to follow these strict rules because we also want to work on this Netflix deal, and Netflix is a big competitor of Disney Plus, which probably added into the equation, and they had to make a decision, and Lucasfilm can be a little bit stingy with paying, so I would imagine Netflix is actually paying them more, and so they went where the money was. Which is funny to me because D&D both said that directing and writing a Star Wars film has been a dream since they were kids. But I guess your dreams don't matter when it comes to money, huh? I mean, okay. There also were other problems present. Now, this isn't confirmed, but it's coming out that D&D were worried about toxic fandom. So if you watch Game of Thrones or you followed it or any of the disaster that's going on currently with it, they pissed off a lot of fans with sloppy writing and character development. And there has been a lot of petitions to redo the final season of Game of Thrones. So a lot of fans for Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire, were not happy with them. And I think they weren't expecting the level of backlash they got. And it really hurt them because they have egos, just like any human being has an ego. And I think they've seen the backlash against Rian Johnson, and they were really worried about it coming for them. And according to some reports, D&D did not want to be a part of Star Wars because of the toxic fan base. Now, I will say this, as I say about any fan base, there's toxic fans everywhere. I mean, we've been toxic towards the arts, and I know people are like, oh, Star Wars isn't arts. It fits under the actual definition, the umbrella. Whether you don't think it is or not is your opinion. That does not coincide with the definition. Maybe. So, and I'm saying maybe if you think it's not an art under the direct definition. We've been shitty towards artists and stories and stuff our entire known existence. I mean, we've driven a lot of artists to kill themselves for being critical of their work throughout our history. So, toxic fandom isn't anything new. It's just multiplied and worse because of social media and that so many people's voices can now be heard instead of before where we were all spread out and we couldn't necessarily all come at a director or a movie all at once. I mean, come on. Is the Star Wars fandom that toxic? Are you telling me that people purposely click on Star Wars videos to write, "Who cares, Star Wars is dead"? I mean, that would be really pathetic. You'd think if something was dead for you, you wouldn't keep clicking on the videos. So, I have no idea where they're coming from with that. That's just weird. So I definitely don't agree if anyone were to say that Star Wars has the most toxic fan base. Every fan base I have encountered is toxic to some degree and has bad fans. I think in general it's just people not knowing how to express themselves in rational and calm ways, and instead they have to lash out and call names and give death threats and stuff because that's just how they know how to express their feelings. So I kind of think it would be bullshit if their reason was, oh, we don't want to deal with the Star Wars toxic fan base. Everywhere you go, you're going to find toxic fans. But on the other hand, maybe after the backlash from Game of Thrones, they want to do a deal with Netflix and work on a show that doesn't have a established universe for a backlash. It's less likely for them to experience the level of backlash from Game of Thrones if it's just a new world that they create. That being said, and going back to Kathleen Kennedy, there's no doubt in my mind with how many directors she's dismissed who didn't want to play ball or do exactly what she said. I would imagine if they ever came back while Kathleen Kennedy was the president of Lucasfilm and agreed to follow all her stipulations, that they would be welcomed back with open arms. I don't think this is they're both going their separate ways and they can never come together again. I just think it's D&D did not want to play by Kathleen Kennedy's rules, and they also went more towards the money and where they had more freedom. Now, if you're wondering what their Star Wars trilogy was going to be about, it was actually going to be the creation of the Jedi, which I still think is something that can be covered, and we might get a trilogy about that in the future. We might get more books. There's a lot of time periods in new canon under Disney for us to explore. So I think just because they're exiting, it doesn't mean that we'll never get those type of stories. As Rian Johnson has also recently said, he's not sure if or when his Star Wars movies will happen because Lucasfilm is still juggling around schedules and focusing on Disney Plus and their live-action Star Wars TV shows. I am betting that Kevin Feige's Star Wars movie is going to be what we're seeing in 2022, which is the next Star Wars movie after The Rise of Skywalker. Of course, we have tons of live-action TV series on Disney Plus. I'm thinking there's some sort of deal going on with Kevin, and he is actually more likely to have his Star Wars movie in 2022. Now, if I were to say my opinion, I am glad D&D are stepping away from Star Wars. I'm not happy with their understanding of characters, and it seems like they don't have the ability to research and dig enough to understand what they're writing, and they rely more on actors and actresses' interpretations and kind of wing it. And they also were quoted about wanting to take fantasy out of series so everybody will enjoy it. And I really don't think you should take any of the sci-fi fantasy elements out of Star Wars. And I know there's a big argument about whether Star Wars is sci-fi or fantasy. If you talk to most authors, they say it's fantasy sprinkled with sci-fi, but then you have fans that argue no, it's strictly sci-fi. So it's not an argument I want to have, although I do go to one side more than the other, but I do worry if that's their opinion and their thought. I don't want them doing Star Wars. I don't want them taking out the fantasy elements and trying to make it relatable to every single person. Did you know that David and Dan actually met with George Lucas over the summer in Italy to talk about their Star Wars project? That's actually really cool. I wonder if George Lucas was like, yeah, you guys are fucking idiots, and I really want you to not do this. Finally, there are some sources saying that part of the problem right now with Lucasfilm is they don't have a clear idea of what Star Wars is or what they're trying to push it towards. And I think that's been pretty evident with the different canon we've been getting with Lucasfilm under Disney and George Lucas having to come back in. And there really does seem to be a struggle to figure out what message they're trying to send. So I also think until they hammer stuff out more, and we know they're struggling right now to decide timelines. They've admitted as much. Even Rian Johnson has said, yeah, they're really trying to juggle what's going to happen when. Sorry. So I think they have a lot of planning to do before they move forward, and I think it's a good thing that the next Star Wars movie won't be till 2022, because that gives them that time to make a good plan. Because when you don't plan stuff out, you get the sequel trilogy. Whether you like it or not, that's fine, but we know they didn't plan everything out, and it's been a little bit of a clusterfuck. So, but what are your thoughts? You can let me know in the comment section down below.
Thanks so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe for more Star Wars videos.